So just a quick intro. Saul Santos is a friend of mine, super talented designer. Admittedly, when I met Saul, I was like, "Who is this dude?" And I'll have him tell the story. But I don't know more people and fewer. How do I say this? There are few people I know with as much drive, ambition, hustle as Saul. Like, and I say that sincerely. He's not only a friend, he's helped me through tough times, but it's super inspiring to see his progress and just where he's been. And I think he's just gonna be going to good places as well. So
I was like this
it's like I got this
box.
thing. Okay, I got disconnected for a sec there. All right, I'm back. Woo, that was scary. Okay, guys, sorry about that. We dropped off. Yes, Matthew, he can't hear you, but you can pose questions and I'll answer those questions or ask them rather, and we'll go from there. So
I can go to YouTube. I can go to your YouTube, mute you, and see the questions there.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You could do that. All right. So how about we talk about how we met, man? How did that go down? You tell me from your perspective.
So I had just moved to Utah from Mexico. I'm originally from Mexico City.
Yeah.
And when I was in Mexico, I was spending time with this girl who was going to school for industrial design. And before that, my dad was an engineer, and I thought that that's the path that I needed to take. I needed to be like a mechanical engineer. But then I was lucky enough that that school, that BYU had an industrial design.
So you went to BYU.
Went to BYU.
All right, just like me.
And there at BYU, like Spencer was like, you were like a TA, I think, at the time.
I might have been. You might need to mute your mic or mute my sound. I don't know how this will work, but I think we picked up my sound a little bit. But yeah, I was a sketch TA. We would have this thing called Sketch Lab, and that was that was once a week. You remember Sketch Lab, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
So yeah, I was a TA, and I remember. So I'm Black, obviously, and in Utah, there's not a lot of Black people. So on campus, there was a Black Student Association or union, and I went to a meeting, and I'm sitting there chilling, and this dude comes up to me, Saul, and I don't remember the rest of the specifics here, but you continue.
That was before Sketch Lab.
That was before Sketch Lab. That's what I'm talking about. And you busted out some sketches. I remember that, and I was just like. Yeah. Ooh, man.
So my best friend is from Uganda, one of my best friends, and Kenny Ojuka, just like he was, awesome dude. And anyways, he comes to me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Black Student Union?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to go to Black Student Union." So we went, and I remember that day I was sitting next to you, and you had your sketchbook, and you were just drawing.
Yeah.
That's how I found out that BYU had an industrial design program. And that's how I became acquainted with you. And then I was attempting to put a portfolio together, and I remember like you were nice enough to be like, "Yeah, I'll take a look." And then you took a quick look, and you're like, "Well, good luck." So I was rejected. That was the first time I was rejected from the program. Because some of you know. So you have to apply to get into school, then you had to apply to get into the program. And I got rejected 3 times. I made it the 4th time. So, and then I got rejected again. But yeah, that's how I know Spencer. Like BYU is great. It's a great program. It's a good program. It keeps producing. And I mean, talking about during around that time, and you've been reposting him a lot, Johnny Jensen,
Oh
who
yeah,
he's I met Johnny Jensen around the same time. He's a designer at Reebok, and his sketching style is just super clean, super cool. And but yeah, like John Mullenkamp, you
yeah.
know,
John's a GoPro now. Yeah. So after you meet, you tried. How many times did you try to get in the program?
I got in the fourth one.
So do you hear that, guys? He tried 4 times to get into this design program. Like, hard worker. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I got in the fourth time, and I mean, this is what I'll tell you. So at the time, like I would, um, so I was a custodial, like I was cleaning vacuuming floors from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then I was a soccer coach from 3 to 5 every day. And I was a server at Carrabba's, the Italian restaurant.
Oh wow.
And so I would pick up like 2 lunch shifts, and I would pick up 3 dinner shifts during the week. And I was going to school full time. And because you have to be going full time when you're an international student.
So where are you from, Saul?
I'm from Mexico City.
Okay.
And so at BYU, because it's a religious school, they close a lot of the buildings on Sundays. So the buildings, the shop where we could work on some of our stuff was closed on Sundays, and I would let's say that I found a way to get into the building on Sundays. So this is how true story though, and this is not like breaking the law or anything. If you got to the building before midnight on Saturday,
yeah,
they'll like security would come in. They see that you're working, so they wouldn't kick you out.
Oh, okay.
So I remember finishing my shift as a server. Like I remember this one time it was like 11:40, and I'm like, no. So I just like asked.
No, I know where Carrabba's is. That's what 3 to 5 miles from the school.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And I made it. I would make it, and then I had a blanket and a pillow. Because if I made it and I spent the night on Saturday at that building, then I could stay and do my homework on Sundays because that was the only time I had to be at the shop.
So you get in on the 4 try. You're hustling, working late. What happens next?
Then at BYU you have to apply to stay in the program. And so once you're in, that's not. I mean, you still have to reapply. So so you have to put your portfolio together. They do a review, and then 2 weeks later you get a response. Either like you can stay in the program and graduate in industrial design, or you're out.
Yeah.
I was the last one to get cut, or maybe it's 2, but they didn't they would give out provisional spots. People that they felt that could prove themselves.
Yeah.
Good. And
so okay, you're in if you prove that you're good.
Yeah. All right. But I wasn't even that. So I remember that, I had bought, a bunch of materials and tools that I wanted to work through the summer, used to build stuff and, kind of like prove things, and then that was one of the, I can't tell you how discouraged I was. Like I left everything, my markers, like.
Oh, I didn't know that part of the story, man.
Yeah, like he was super sad, and I went to see one professor who's now a really good friend of mine.
Yeah, I know which one. He's the same one who told me you can't fool me with a good sketch.
So, and he's just like so like because like the big projects, like um uh for the big projects, I was like I had like the speed shape, for example, like in so BYU had a very strong, back in the day, it had a strong emphasis in transportation, in transport, like transit design.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we had to,
Well, you remember I taught the trans class one semester. You remember that?
yeah.
Which
So
is
I would,
crazy.
uh, so I was just like, you know, um, what was that? Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, yeah. So this big project, you had to make a speed shape, to design highlights and and finishes and all this stuff. And I think my project for that was either number one or number two, because they ranked all your assignments.
Yeah.
So so this professor who just told me, is like, Saul, is just like, you're so inconsistent. Like, we just don't know when you're gonna turn something good and when you're gonna turn something bad.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, hey, um, do you realize that it's just a direct reflection of whether, like, did I have time this week, or I didn't, or like, was work, like, it was a direct reflection of how much work to provide and to save so I could pay for my tuition. You know,
Yeah.
I had that week. That was it. So, but yeah, that was rough. So I went and took the route. Since I was an international student, your visa has, like a shelf life. So I had to find like a major that I could, because I had applied so many times for the industrial design program, so you can only do it twice a year, for fall and for spring semester.
Yeah.
So I only had like 3 semesters left to finish college. If I would have been accepted to the industrial design program, I could have extended it. So I ended up doing international development, like Latin American studies, with an emphasis in economics and international development.
Yeah.
So that was college for me. And like at the time, like I thought that I was just gonna go back to Mexico and work in like an embassy, or maybe go to I don't know, so many things were going through my mind at the time, but design definitely at that point was like completely dropped.
So
I
I just want to point out real quick, just from the chat, David just says, can't knock that hustle. So he's just giving you props because, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I respect most about you. Not only are you just kind and you've got the best heart, but like as far as working hard, I feel like maybe Andres, who I'll try and get him on at some point, but Andres Parada, I talked about him on my last stream, but he's another just hard worker, and you two are just so inspiring that way.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Like which brings another set of problems, by the way, that I'm learning too, because I mean, if I can share something when it comes to that, is so I come from like, my family comes from the very bottom. My dad's from the jungle in the middle of nowhere in Mexico.
Okay.
You know, my mom's from the hood. Like my mom, and like we're from a part of Mexico City. It's just the hood. But it's cool. Like that's. But then where I was raised, it was like a very, like, it was the intro to middle class type scenario.
Yeah.
But every single person in my life, like my aunts, my uncles, my mom, and my dad, were just hustlers. But yeah, like, they hustle so much that they work literally to the grave. They work so much, and I've had to learn to take care of myself. because like I was working, not that I want to work less hard, but like I want to take care of myself, because if I work so hard that I'm not, taking care of my health, taking care of like my emotional health, spending the quality time with my family, like that. But it's something that I'm having to teach myself that, you know, you need to take care of yourself so you can work and be more. I don't know. Like I'm starting
No,
to like.
you know me. I mean, you know what I was like in school too. I practically lived in the studio. I remember moving my iMac computer into the studio from home because I was just like, this is where I live. But even now with kids, I have kids, and you have a child as well. I don't want to give away too much information. Respect your privacy, but I realize like sometimes you're there, but you can't always be there for them. That's hard. That's one thing. The other thing is just I have to force myself to take one day a week and just not do anything. Otherwise it really does wear on you.
Yeah, and I think just balance, balance, finding that it's just principles that we apply to design, we apply to sketching, we apply to coloring, we apply to illustration. Like
Yeah.
balance right amount of this or balancing the right amount of that, and I think those same principles can be applied to life. But anyways,
so I know I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, just for the sake of time. I didn't pay for the full Zoom license, so we're gonna fast track this one. Um, so I know you had a few gigs after school. You didn't graduate, but at the time, anyways. And so you got a few gigs. Tell me how you got your first footwear. Like, how did you get to that point?
so like I think, and you and I have talked about this before. It's just like once I found like my medium, which for me was, when I was able to sketch on an iPad.
Yeah.
That like gave me an opportunity to take my iPad with me and sketch. It gave me an ability to like do a lot of overlays, so I could learn the proportions, because my proportions were off.
Yeah.
You So practice, perspective and different views. So I was able to, like just do a ton of it. So I started, I was fortunate enough that, I was able to know some people in the industry already. So I would send my sketches, and some people would never reply, and some people would reply with great criticism, you know. So I started just sending stuff, and and kind of like learning to just to take feedback, even if they were like tearing my stuff apart. Like I kind of like had to learn to take the positive from what they were saying. Like because some people are great at giving feedback.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they don't have the intent to be, to hurt your feelings or
Yeah.
some people are straight up mean when they give feedback.
So I want to touch on this just a little bit. What you mentioned, like good feedback, bad feedback. What's one thing that sticks out to you about good feedback?
So I was able to, I learned that people with experience, with the most experience in the industry, or people who just next level people, if you may, because of they can see a good idea that might not have been executed properly, or they could see, that they can get on your like at your level.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it is just like the best feedback came from people that are incredibly good at what they do, but that they can come down to your level and to see things from your perspective. And a lot of them also ask a lot of questions for them to understand what they're seeing. If you're yeah, I mean that's one of those things. Like I think if is they get to your level to see things from your perspective. That I think that allows them to give very valuable feedback because it speaks to you, not to them.
Cool, man. So thanks for sharing that. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. In terms of feedback, just a lot has changed since I was in school. I remember feedback professors would give. It was, harsh and pointed, and it was easy to get upset and offended at it. So I'm just trying. I'm trying to ask a few friends of mine, people I respect, look up to. What is good feedback to you, and hopefully I can gather some of those thoughts and share. All right. So you were asking for feedback. You're getting feedback, and then what happens?
So then, the biggest, the key. There's a couple of key roles in my life of footwear, and one of them was Steve Shorten, who you also went to school with.
Yeah.
And Steve Shorten, he was, a senior designer for Ultra Running. And at the time, Ultra was located in the middle of nowhere, Utah, in Logan, Utah. So for those that are not familiar, so I was living, at the time I was living in Utah Valley, close to BYU. And Ultra was in Logan, Utah, which it's about like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So Steve is like, hey, you want to come up for a visit? So I just went up for a visit, and after I had been sending him sketches. So he's like, hey, why don't you wait here? And he sat me in a conference room. And I was just like, okay, this is weird because I just sat in a conference room and, I just had like a notebook, my iPad, some pens or whatever. And then I sat there for 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, just like drawing, and I didn't know what was happening, But then Steve comes back. He was like probably like 2 hours. Steve comes back with his boss, and his name is Jared, and Jared, who became my boss. So Steve is like, hey, put your stuff up in the, like, connect to the Apple TV or whatever. And
oh, wow.
And I was like, okay. So I put up my stuff, and then, probably like 20 minutes later of showing things, his boss is like, yeah, have him work on, at the time, like, it was the Superior. I remember it's a trail running shoes. Like, why don't you have him like help with the Superior, And, if just, we'll start him at like, whatever we pay the interns.
Okay.
And, like, I didn't know what was happening,
because you didn't go in for an interview. You're just visiting with your friend.
I was just visiting with a friend,
And what I love about this part though is you didn't just sit there waiting for 3 hours. You were sketching. You were doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I walked out of that meeting, and I remember Steve, because Steve is, for those that know Steve, and for those that will meet Steve has like a natural caring nature. Like, he's gone through like, like, Steve is a really special person for me. And but he really, like, he's got like a natural caring nature, and at the end he's like, he's like, don't let me down. I was like, what's happening? But like, that the pursuit of happiness, when Will Smith gets his job, and he walks out, the street, and starts clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I had that moment, I walked, it was like, it was it's like October, November. So it was like one of those like crisp air mornings or days. And I walked out, and I remember just the air just fell. I don't know. It was just like, I was unofficially a footwear designer at that, and I wasn't making anything. Like, just to give you a reference, and for those that want to get into the industry, like what I was making for the intern rate paid for my gas and a little bit of like the food, or I still had to have another job coaching. I was coaching lots of soccer to pay the bills, like so. And so I was driving 2 hours to work and 2 hours home every day so I could make this happen,
Yeah, I
and
remember. I remember some days you would text me and you were like, "Hey, I'm just heading home." And I'm like, "What?" That's like midnight or 2 a.m. It's like, what? So like, I can't. That, that's just so impressive to me. 2 hours each way.
dude, there was sometimes that I would call my wife. I would call Anja. I'd be like, "Hey, baby, I'm sleeping at the office because it's so late and I have to be back so early tomorrow that it doesn't make any sense for me just to come home."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in
Um,
Ultra. You worked on some products. I guess maybe share some lessons you learned or what it was like. So you kind of got your foot in the door. You're unofficially officially a footwear designer. What's next?
so I think I think I'm super lucky, dude. I feel I'm like. And by the way, one it's my number one or number two rule for design is you should always be grateful
Yeah,
for where you've been, so like I recently have had, I've been mentoring some designers, and they want advice in design, and the first thing they tell them is just like, don't be pretentious, be yourself. But I always tell them, be grateful, like show, be grateful for the opportunity that, just gratitude just goes a long way. But anyways, um, so I was super lucky that when I was at um, Ultra was like a brand new. There's like Matthew has a question. Says, do you ever have any sort of rejections? Like we always, like I think I've worked long enough, and I think there's always like some sort of like a fear when you're that young. It's always
yeah, for
there.
sure. I was
Oh,
like, so many thoughts are coming up as I saw that question too.
sometimes you don't even do what you know you can do just because you don't want to be rejected. But I when I played sports, I was a forward, and then like you know I had to go for it otherwise. And a lot of times I got rejected, so it's like with girls, I always got rejected, but I didn't stop. So, but um so I was lucky that Altra the was a successful company. It was backed by another successful company, which was Icon Fitness, um, and that it was a small enough team that we were all learning. So it was like going to college again for footwear,
Yeah,
So I had to learn every single role within a footwear team, because a lot of times I found myself, doing lots of things, not because people, just because we all had to help each other. Um, so it was small enough that you had to, we did, oh man, we were so busy and loaded with so much work, and because the company was growing, I was start traveling to Asia, and then you start learning like how shoe, like, because if you think you know shoes, wait until like you start seeing how they are put together. They like, once you start going to Asia and you see like some of the craftsmanship, like some pattern makers in China, blow my mind, you know, blow my mind with their talent and their ability to solve problems to execute your vision for design. and they're just like people that have been doing patterns for 30 years. So there's this young designer that shows up to China with this idea, that you think it's hard. And then like this, 50-year-old Chinese lady shows up and solves all your problems. And all you want to do is give her a hug and not let go.
Yeah, you're touching on an interesting topic too, because experience can sometimes it can help you, but sometimes it can, work against you where you get set in your ways. When I was training some designers at Adidas for a week, one of the the jokes or quips that they kept making with each other was that some of the shoe designs they would do, the profile, you talked about proportion. They're like, oh, the toe box goes to a point. There's no shoe that does that. And they try, you look at the profile proportion of some of their shoes, particularly some of the NMD stuff, and you're like, okay, they're pushing it. When you apply the knits instead of having overlays, you can get away with some of that and get those sexy designs. But yeah, certainly experience is one of those things where you kind of have to have a balance between being curious about what's possible, but also respecting what's real.
No, it's crazy because that brings another topic. It's just like the way material. So the way footwear is manufactured today. It's evolving so fast. It's evolving so fast. Back in the day, there was lots of stitching. There was lots of pieces, so you really needed to see like forward construction the same way you see other just industrial design in general. But like right now, it's just like it's getting to a point like it is really important for you to have like a strong understanding of graphic design, because you're the way you're designing textiles, has the use for a strong understanding of patterns, for example.
Yeah.
And if you understand beautiful patterns, very likely that you can design, and proportions, that you can design beautiful uppers, beautiful aesthetics to the textiles of your shoes. So suddenly like everything is kind of like melting, but the principles of design are like they just stay, they're they always live, but they're melting on their other categories that in the past were not considered necessary. They go to categories or professions for a footwear design.
So you go from kind of a footwear designer to, hey, Ultra brings you on. You end up at Brooks. What are you doing now?
So Brooks, by the way, Brooks is an amazing company. Like, holy cow! Like, if anyone is lucky enough to go to Brooks,
where are they based? Tell us a little bit about them.
They're in Seattle.
Okay.
And if you go into Brooks, if you go into that in the fourth floor where you have research and development, it's full with talent. It's like, fuck it. It's unreal how much talent is in that floor, and lots of people that, some of the designers there are just like, and silent like Brian Suh and the young talent there, like, Jesus Garate and Ruby, Abdewali and like Rodolfo Lozano and, like they're and that they it's just a great place full of talent. But I got hit up by Black Diamond. Black Diamond is it's a company with a long-standing tradition of great industrial design. They do outdoor equipment. So they hit me up to help them with some projects that are related to footwear. And they bring me back to Utah, and after being in Seattle was an amazing experience. Seattle is a super cool city. It's dope.
So there's a little side story here. You don't have to tell us any detail. Maybe you can hint at it in between Brooks and where you are now. Did you have?
No, so Spencer and I had this conversation because like I designed this one shoe, is like a shoe at Ultra. So just I convinced my boss at Ultra that I wanted to. I'm like, hey, can I have 20 pairs of the first shoe I designed? Because I wanted to send it to people that had helped me, or some friends that were in the hustle with me that I knew through Instagram. So I sent some to Chris Dixon and Dwayne Edwards and Pencil. Like I send you a pair. I sent a pair to my friend Cesar Hidrogo, who Cesar is the head pattern maker for Yeezy. At the time, he was, I think this is right around the time or right before he was a developer at Yeezy for Adidas the first time he was there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I saw my friends some shoes. So Cesar was wearing, those shoes at work, and Kanye looks at the shoes and tells he's like, hey, can you give me a pair of those? So I sent Kanye like a pair, and I just did it because Cesar used to Cesar could do something nice for his boss. And next thing I know, I get a phone call from Kanye West, and he's like, yo, Saul, what's up? And
So wait. So Kanye West called you up. I'm showing some of your work here while you talk. So
yeah, I mean, I think if you showed like the couple of images of how that shoe came about, like it's actually like a really like I really, I mean, those are like just quick sketches, ideation, but like there's a page that has like some of the. Oh, by the way, that top one is the top green and purple is inspired by just cartoons. I like Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Cell, or no, not Cell. Is it Cell or Piccolo? Which one is that?
It's another one. It's what's his name? No, look. But anyways, that going back to that one, and so we talked for some time, and then he's like, why don't you come out to the ranch, So I spent about 3 days with him at the ranch in Cody, Wyoming, and we just talked about the shoes, and it was really awesome. It was like a great experience just to see that one right there. That one right there would. So that's where the inspiration comes from, like it comes from the shape of this cheetah, beautiful shape.
Yeah, I remember when you sent me this and you're like, hey, what do you think? And I was like, holy cow, this is cool. This is really cool. Like it's a good simplification of a very organic thing, but I think it embodies the, that I'm trying to remember how you put it, but it's like when a cheetah is running, they kind of compress or, everything's brought in, but at that moment, that's when they're about to release all the energy and go boom.
Yeah.
That's that boom. Yeah.
So anyways, you can find inspirations from everywhere,
Yeah.
And anyways, so just spending time with Kanye also brought back something that I think I was missing, which or that I had lost. I had lost some of this, where like, where you're using, beautiful things as an inspiration to like artistic expression through product.
Yeah.
Be on a fight. I used to fight it. I used to, when people are like, oh, are you an artist? I'd be like, no, I am a product designer, but now the older I grow, the more I realize that it's that expressing your feelings and your thoughts through visual is an artistic process. There's so much art, and shoes should have that, to me, because it's a beautiful, like if you think about the history of shoes, they have been this vehicle for expression in history, like I love that Run DMC like the connection to those, superstars, and, and the connection to Michael Jordan, and the connection to Ronaldo, and the connection to Michael Johnson, like everyone remembers Michael Johnson's, Olympic 1996 Olympic shoe because he was gold, because he was out there, and because he won a gold medal. There's just so much emotion packed into that makes them memorable, And there's a great book. So I want, like, because I also used to be in a fight with being materialistic. But then, because I didn't want to be materialistic, but it's a book called Joyful, and that book is written by a creative director of IDEO. What's her name? Oh, anyways, it just reconciles or expresses how we get joy through material things, and not that you're materialistic, but one of the examples that she uses is like sometimes we have religious artifacts that are things that brings us joy because they connect us with deity or with people that we love that have passed. Or anyways, read that book. It's amazing. But
it's called it's called Joyful. Okay. All right.
If our products, if our creations are not creating emotions, they will just vanish and fade. And I think, we touched on Johnny Jensen's sketches, and I think, one of the reasons why I think they're so good and so successful, specifically for the platform of Instagram, is because they are so expressive, but they have so much emotion in them, and they create so much emotion. Like, you cannot look at those quick sketches. I mean, I don't know how long it takes them to make them, but you cannot look at those simple sketches and not be like, oh my god.
Yeah, I just shared the link in the chat for anyone who's looking at it. But if you want to see some very a very expressive, emotional sketching for footwear that's also restrained, like, he has this ability to, like, distill things down, and you just look at it and you're like, whoa, I got nothing to say. This is good. But oh, go ahead.
The other thing that you can see about in those sketches, the quickest, is like his deep understanding of footwear. Like, in order to produce those sketches, those quick, full of emotions, you need to understand footwear, and you can tell that he has mastered, that he's getting to that mastering of knowledge of footwears. And I don't know, like, they're just awesome. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, it's all good. We just got some audio issues, so I was just telling everyone that the audio will be better with the replay. But I'm trying to think the last question I wanted to ask you here. So if I guess if we're just gonna wrap this up, because I think we're coming up on time. If you were to give some advice to, I get people asking me to draw shoes all the time. I'm not a footwear designer per se, but I've done it. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to break in, based on your experience, the things you've seen? Might be where the industry's going. What essential tools, skills, advice would you have for people? I know there was a question earlier about the use of 3D software in the footwear industry, so the last 5 minutes I'll give to you. Go for it.
3D software will be irrelevant. Is relevant. Like, that's what Sam Whitford is doing at New Balance.
Yeah.
He uses, Grasshopper in Rhino.
Yep.
It just this parametric design through that software is just effective and beautiful. And for the purpose of, like, creating surface and functional elements in, like, in footwear, it's just awesome. So anyone that has like an interest for that, the deeper you go into you will find work in footwear if you have that skill set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one. What are some things that I think people should, is your ability to express your ideas. And I think people need to, each individual is responsible to finding the medium and the style that better represents the ideas. You know, if you're authentic, if your idea is authentic, it doesn't mean that it's original, 100% original, but that it's authentic. You know, um, I think people are naturally drawn to authenticity. So, like, I think if you're trying to pretend to be like some, Tinker Hatfield or Christian Tresser, Steve Smith, like I think they're great to designers to aspire to be, but at the end of the day, we need to find our identity. We need to find, you need to be, the best version of yourself. Will be that, and the best version is like you need to understand footwear, and you need to understand why each piece. What's the role of footwear? You need to understand. I think a strong understanding of graphic design for an industrial designer is now crucial, because back in the day, it was like a nice thing if you knew some.
Yeah.
Now it's crucial because of some of the processes that now we're dealing with. It's crucial, to be relevant in that space. I think don't stop. Like I think that's probably like I'll leave with that. I have conversations with people that are dear to me. That sometimes we go into these lumps. That we go on up and downs, and I think life. It's important that we understand that we all have ups and downs. Like right before I went into footwear, I was a roofer. I was installing roofs. That was my job. I was in the sun, installing roofs. I mean, you remember when that would come to your house, like after work, and I was all burned out. I was helping you build your house.
Yeah, dude, I remember. I was like, you're doing roofing, and you ended up in Oregon, and you'd come back to Utah, and it's like, man, how is he doing this? How is he doing this? And I remember
I was in the process of getting my visa, my work visa, so I had to get a job that was paying me cash.
Yeah.
So that's how. Anyways, so I was, and I paid all my taxes. By the way. It does ups and downs. Is we need to learn to appreciate the downs, because that's where we build our character, and that's where we learn to appreciate the highs. So, but I think to expect that we will always be at the top, it's not real. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. So, my advice is, but what I tell people, as long as we don't stop, as long as we keep moving, eventually we will find ourselves, back at the top, back at where we need to be. So, coming to terms that like emotionally, professionally, like sometimes we'll find ourselves at the top, but sometimes we just need to keep moving. We just need to keep moving forward, and because that's where the progress was, with the learning, that's where the growth comes from. And remember, like the people that you cross paths with, and some, like I love my favorite people at Brooks were, was Alma, who was the custodial, and Clarita, she was a custodial, because like I'm Mexican, I connect with the Hispanics, and when I was working late, or early when we would come in, they were the first ones there.
Yeah.
And this is what's crazy is people took notice that I was the only one talking to, that I was like this footwear designer, and I was one of the few ones that would take, 10, 15 minutes just to chat with them to see how they're doing. Dude, Clarita, she's from El Salvador, and, I have so many dear friends from El Salvador. One day she came into work. She brought Aja and I like 2 huge pieces of fresh caught salmon. And then she's like, for you guys, and because she had a friend who was like a fisherman. Anyways, but like be nice to people.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap up here, but I think this, don't stop. I love that. Like that's something that, like I said, and I'm not just saying this because I have Saul on the show. We go way back, but hard work. pays off. Like just grind, hustle. That's why I'm like sketch every day, work every day, hustle. Saul mentioned working on the roofs, doing janitorial. I've done that too. A lot of us, you kind of have to do what you have to do to create space to be creative. And I think one thing they don't teach you in design school, so is, pardon my French here, guys, don't be a dick. So you got to be a good person. It's just as important to design yourself, and certainly not in an inauthentic way. You want to be true to yourself, but you are as much a product as the things you create. So, taking time to talk to Clarita and others, like, I think that's impressive. So we have just a couple wrap up questions here in the chat. People are asking what's the best way to connect with you.
So if you just post the link to my
all right.
So I will. So I'm in the process of starting a new. Well, I started before, but I'm gonna post my work just because I feel like it's beneficial to some people, like in my you can post my personal one, which is open, and people you can go through my journey. I mean, like it wasn't too long ago that I was posting like super crappy, still there, and yeah. People can see like where I was like not so long ago, and I'm okay with it. And then the other one, my other account, if you want, it's dsgn.
Okay.
Tasaka. Tasaka is used because my full name is Saul Santos Camacho, so it's the initials Saul Santos Camacho. Sasaka.
So okay.
So I'll post it right here.
Yeah, if you can just post it, that'd be better because I'm trying to guess it and I haven't seen that account yet. But I appreciate you taking the time, dude. Love you. You're seriously an inspiration. I'm not just saying that. Like, I've seen you. I mean, I remember when you called me and you're like, "Yo, Kanye called me." I'm like, "What?" I mean, what a trajectory. And I think I would ask what's next for you, but I don't think you can even imagine because I've seen so many like things you've done, and I'm sure that there's just greatness ahead for you. So I appreciate you joining. Yeah, I just got the link, so I'll post that.
Yeah, I'm working with some of the all-time greats that are retired, grabbing all of their knowledge and passing it down to the newer generations. And what's next for me, it'll be an outreach program. I want to inspire minorities and, especially kids that just show them what are the classes that they can take in middle school, high school that could lead into a career that they can be super happy because like minorities, we tend to, I mean, I'm not gonna generalize. I want to be a positive influence for minorities in my society. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, appreciate it, man. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe we can sketch together sometime online. That would be interesting, but we'll figure something out. But again, appreciate
we used to get at Starbucks.
Yeah, we did. I remember that. I think you were my wingman one day. I'll tell you guys that story sometime. Saul got me a date.
I got dates or maybe.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna bounce, but again, appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time, and much love. All good things. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I know this is a little bit different. The show went long, but hopefully you enjoyed that. I think Saul is an incredible human, and it's taken us a few weeks to get this set up. And I just love him. He helped me through my divorce. He's been inspirational. He's got a great heart. He's a hustler. And I didn't really get to show as much of his work, but I think a good opportunity might be, I can post some of it on the blog if he's cool with that, or do a follow-up video or something. But we'll be back on Sunday with another show. If you are a Patreon, we'll be doing a pre-show on Wednesday, not Sunday. But feel free to give submissions about ideas for what you want to see on the show. Thanks for all the ideas today as well. I'll just do a quick review here of what we covered. So kick things off with this Bluetooth speaker. We also had this exploded view that we did for Chad, and Matt suggested, or no, it wasn't Matt, it was Tom suggested doing a camera, so we were able to sketch and talk. So I'll be sure to, I have a lot of friends, so I'll be sure to get some other friends on the show from time to time. So appreciate it, guys. Take care. Subscribe. Turn on those alerts as always. And I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye, everyone.